Alright, hello and welcome back to another daily upload on the Ixon channel. Today we are doing another armor test, but this test is one that I've never been able to do before. It is a new thing because I have a new set of armor that has some different characteristics. So, essentially this is a test for an experiment we're going to do later. And today we're doing the test and you will see what we're actually doing. Should be in the next couple days, should perhaps be coming out Wednesday if all things goes well. But essentially I'm going to put on all my armor and you'll understand very soon. So now I'm in my full set, fully kitted out. I gotta go into battle somewhere. And now we shall begin the test. So essentially, the type of test, the reason why this armor is different from all the rest, is that it is a waterproof set of armor. It is able to be fully submerged and come out, in theory, unscathed. And today we're testing that. So I'm going to have I'm going to essentially be sprayed down by a hose, and we'll see how wet I get underneath it, see what happens to the armor, and videotape results. So yeah. Alright, so as I said before, it is a water test, and we're doing two different types of tests today. And then the third test, the final experiment will come out on Wednesday. And then based on those three, we'll be perfectly prepared and ready for actual use in actual games. So if you want to begin the experiment now. Well, I'm getting really wet, but I think the armor's holding up fine. So essentially, this is my 13th set of armor, as I've said a couple times before. But the other 12 that were keeping were all made out of cardboard, and I'm pretty sure the last couple were, oh no. The last few, before this one, of course, geez, that's getting my pants real wet. You can keep going though. The last couple of the cardboard were all spray painted, and spray painted armor increases your resistance to water, both the water from the environment, like rain and stuff, but because it's not spray painted on the inside, it does not decrease its resistance to sweat. And this armor has been sweated in quite a bit already, and has stayed pretty much relatively fine throughout it all. But it hasn't really been tested in full rain yet, and this is a pretty good full rain simulation, so yeah, that's what we're doing. I've had two really big rain stories. The first really big, well, water stories, I suppose. The first really big one was one time where I was out fighting somebody else in like the forest. We were walking down a trail and I was fighting them, and they had another full set of armor and I had a full set of armor. And so we were doing our night v night battle. And so normally with a full set of armor, I don't have to worry about getting tagged with swords. But it was so wet that my entire shoulder fell off my body on the ground behind me. But because it was raining and I had a helmet on, I couldn't really realize. And so I ended up going into this battle against someone without a shoulder. They tagged me on my shoulder. I didn't call myself out because I didn't know my shoulder was gone. They pointed it out to me. I looked over and was just terrified because I never had a piece of armor fall off my body in combat before. If something breaks, I usually knew about it. But damage with water is a little different. You can keep going there, I guess, if you want. The second big set that this thing probably won't ever have a problem with, oh, I'm getting a little muddy, that's fine, is that there was another time with a later set of armor. I think I have some pictures of it before it got destroyed. There was so I guess there's a little body of water. I'm not actually going to run into it since it's very muddy, and it would get the armor filthy as opposed to just wet. But there was a body of water, and some kid hid a flag about 15 feet deep into the puddle of water. I think it was like a retention pond or something. And in a full set of cardboard armor, I took my phone out of my pocket, set that to the side, and ran in the pond and like started swimming in the water in a full set of cardboard armor. And I eventually got the flag and got back out. But when I climbed back out on shore, I was completely missing a full arm and a full leg. So I got the flag, but it literally cost an arm and a leg. So that's, I guess, my second big water story. Ugh. And just, I have many, many pictures of armor being destroyed by sweat and destroyed by water. It just is very the antithesis to cardboard. But this full set, hopefully, will be my my most meta one yet. Is completely immune to such damages. Though my shoes and pants are getting soaked under here. So, yep, that's that for our experiment number 1. Alright, so the test we just completed was a very localized test. It was just me getting sprayed like in one spot or in one zone, and not really a full spectrum mobility analysis underwater. So to simulate rainfall and to simulate like getting wet everywhere all at the same time, I'm going to be subjecting myself to a ground sprinkler that we bought for like $3 at Menards. So yeah, if you want to start the experiment. I think that pretty accurately simulates rainfall. The only thing that's different is that not all of it is coming up at me, some of it's coming, or not all of it's coming down on me, some of it's coming up. It's a little weird. Ah. That's kind of fun. Oh, good lord. I'm going to try something that I think is perhaps a bad idea. We're going to give it a shot anyway. And if it breaks the armor, it breaks the armor. It's a test. Let's go for it. Honestly, my fingers took more harm than I did in that test. You probably went over top. Oh, God. Honestly, the worst part is just that it's so slippery. And my eyelashes are getting pushed in my eyes. Wow. So, oh, did something break? Oh no, I think when I did that leg splay, something tore in there. We can fix that though, because that's not the cardboard. I'm pretty sure that's the duct tape, or the adhesive in the duct tape kind of giving way, which is fine. So one of the things that I can do during this experiment, just sort of as a matter of course, is, well, talk to you a little bit and then perhaps show you something. So I've been thinking a lot about, like, fighting at adventures in cardboard. I mean, I did that whole macro thing, but more than just like theory, like more actual practical like sword fighting techniques. I do not practice HEMA or historical European martial arts. I don't practice kendo or fencing or any of those things, but I've been fighting for 10 years, and if you saw through the Killmeister compilation, I actually am rather good at my sword play and stuff like that. So I was wondering, like, if I could go through, like, look back through old footage or record new footage, just sort of see what my actual style is, and then perhaps compare it to other historical styles. Or the thing that I think is going to be really fun is taking a look through, like I want to look back through Killmeisters that I recorded that I did not participate in, because I have a couple of pieces of footage of Killmeisters recorded from a distance of other campers fighting, and watching how other campers choose to fight. I mean, like, there are a couple of commonalities whenever they're actually going after someone. Obviously, you want to tag someone. There was a week where I was a royal guard stationed in the castle, and one of the things I did that week was I recorded a list of every single person who died, how they died, where they got tagged, and what weapon tagged them, and essentially it was all either backstabs or vanguards. And like, that's pretty much the long and short of it. I think those two things seem to be the most popular methods of getting killed. Very few people are getting tagged with one-handed swords from the front. It just doesn't really happen. People get tagged with vanguards from the front. That's rather common. And then when people get tagged with one-handed swords, it's almost always backstabs. For me, I know, I think in the Castle Siege video I did a couple days ago, I died 4 times, 3 of which were from fireballs, and 1 of which was from a dagger in the back. So that's literally how I go down. With this level of armor, I mean, water can get through, but water doesn't really do anything to me because the armor is impenetrable. The way that I get killed most often really is magic or daggers. And my martial art, essentially, I think I talked about this in a shield video long ago, is to sort of hold your weapons out further away from you so that you have more standoff distance. It's like you're using a vanguard. But then when you're engaging with someone, you actually crouch up a lot more so that your weapon can't be bat aside and then they come in to get you. So you kind of like huddle in a little bit and then you use your shield to sort of prod instead of your sword. Because your shield's bigger and it's less easy to bat away. And so you bat their weapon away and then come in down from the bottom, tag, or whatever. But you never hold it like, you never do this. Because that way, your sword gets bad, and your shield's so close that they can just get around you and get to your knees or wherever. Man, this water is pretty young, isn't it? This is actually getting rather cold now. But anyway, I just don't really know that much about fighting, I suppose. It's just not something that I've ever, like, studied, like sword fighting, I mean, like, studied intentionally. I think it would be kind of interesting to do somewhat of a case study, because I have had, like, moments where I've dueled over and over and again with specific people, just to, like, really try to practice what style they're using. Like, there was one story about during hard tactical, we were all only using either one-handed sword or 2 scout swords, and so me and one of the other people in my house were dueling over and over and over and over again to try to get better at dueling with one-handed swords. And essentially, the meta we discovered is that without any armor, people pretty much only get tagged in the forearm when you're scout on scout, and there's no backstabbing. You pretty much only get forearm shots. And so, to best hide your forearm, and to make it most possible to tag your opponent's forearm, the way that most people got out, or the best style to take, was essentially the praying mantis style. I can't really do it because my shoulder armor limits my upward movement like that. But you just hold your sword like up like this, and you try to tag in the other person's forearm while leaving your sword behind, or your forearm behind your sword, so that your forearm is more protected. It was a really stupid looking, because you walk around like that to fight people, just to get a higher advantage than them. But it really worked, because whoever was higher was able to block the opponent's sword and then go in for a forearm tag. And if the lower opponent tried to knock aside their sword, you just retreat rack easier than you could down. If you go down, it goes into your legs. But if you go up, there's nothing really to go into other than your head, and that's a no-take zone. It was just a really weird experiment in fighting with someone who is also very good, also understands how to improve through multiple successive fights. I would really like it to actually get the chance to do that again, to get the chance to fight with someone over and over and over and over again, to get better and to just experiment and see how things go. Like, I think it'd be really fun to find another person with full armor. There's another one of the fights that doesn't really happen very often, and so when it does happen, there's a very strange meta that evolves from it, is shield and dagger combat. Oh wow, shake and all the water comes up. Because there have been a couple of weeks where I've fought with other people who have not as good armor as I do, but good enough that if they have a dagger and I'm trying to use my sword, the chance that they'll kill me before I kill them is bad. Or is good for them, bad for me. And so we pretty much are doing shield, shield, dagger, dagger. And so again, some weird things arise. Because you're only doing shield, shield, dagger, dagger, because there's an opponent's shield, you're pretty much only being able to tag what's exposed, or occasionally you can go underneath like I like to do. But when you're in full armor, the biggest thing I noticed from some of the camper versus counselors is that in full armor, my lunge is kind of reduced. I can't leap forward as far. That and I'm sliding. And I'm just slippery more. You can't lunge forward as far and like get around or underneath anything, and then people can back up as faster than you can actually lunge forward. And so it doesn't really work as well. You sort of have to walk and then pressure them into something, which is sort of what I do during Killmeisters when I'm bored. But if you did watch the montage, you tell that really the best way of doing Killmeister is by running past people and tagging them on your way past. It's just faster, more efficient, you get more kills. You're much more of a tagger in the taggers versus pushers. You're actually like out there doing things. You can't really control where they're going. To control where someone's going, you have to present like an element of fear to them and then slowly increase where that fear is. That's kind of how you're supposed to move, or how you, the way in which moving is the most effective, that is. But it just doesn't get that many kills because you're so slow. To actually get a kill as a pusher, you have to lunge really far, and in a full set of armor, it's really hard to do so, especially if you're wet and the grass is slippery. But when you're a tagger, instead of lunging, you're just running. You're just like running at someone, and then when they try to back up or block or spin out of the way, you're able to either run around them or kind of like disarm them or discard them, and just win the encounter. But when you're a pusher, you're not able to enter encounters as often. It's just a weird dynamic that I'd like to explore more. I'd like to get the chance to see more of. Yeah. So I guess I'd love if somebody else wants to fight me a bunch. We can make a video on it, do a case study, because AIC combat is actually rather similar to fencing and kendo, where like it's one tap to defeat your opponent. You don't have to actually like cut their head off to win. And so because of that, there are weird things that arise, like the prevalence of forearm strikes as being pretty much the leading way of people getting killed in conscious one-on-one attacks. Like, that wouldn't actually like kill you in real life. You just either switch to your other hand or you'd run away or something like that. But in AIC combat, it's an incredibly detrimental attack. So maybe something more like Grizzly rules, where, if you don't know, Grizzly rules are rules where when you're fighting somebody else, if you stick on an arm and you get tagged in that arm, you lose the ability to use that arm. So you're unable to fight with it, and instead, you're only able to fight with the arm that you actually have remaining, and if both your arms get tagged, you actually can't fight at all. I mean, maybe you could hold something with your foot, but I wouldn't really recommend that, and even in armor, I don't really have like a place to put it. And then if you get tagged in your chest, that is a one-hit kill. So your limbs are not. Limbs are 3-hit kill, but your chest is a 1-hit kill, which I think is more accurate to actual reality than regular AIC combat is. But other metas arise out of that as well. So people are more willing to lose an arm and keep fighting and tag somebody's chest than they would be to expose themselves quite as much in just a regular 1v1. But also, I guess, unless you're like a very old AICer, not that many people get the chance to fight that many times, even during like multiple weeks in the summer. They just don't really get that much experience, and so they don't really learn how to fight well. I don't know. Anyway, I think that just about concludes our experiment here. I'm gonna maybe do one last jump through just for a thumbnail shot, and I think that'll be it. So. Alright, hopefully that made a good shot. I think that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. I hope this experiment maybe convince you to make some plastic armor. It's very expensive, but as you can see, it holds up incredibly well under the water. So, yeah, that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow for another daily upload.